Hi, Mr. Devlin here, and today I want to talk about Behemoths. We know Behemoths are coming back in Battlefield 5, so I'm going to speculate on what we might get. It's obvious that we're going to get some sort of naval battles in the next game, so I'm going to put in, first, an aircraft carrier. And the one I think will be an ideal choice is a Japanese aircraft carrier, Shinano. Shinano was an aircraft carrier built by the Imperial Japanese Navy during World War II, the largest such built up to that time. Laid down in May 1940 as the third of the Yamato-class battleships, Shinano's partially complete hull was ordered to be converted to an aircraft carrier following Japan's disastrous loss of 4 fleet carriers in the Battle of Midway in mid-1942. Her conversion was still not finished in November 1944, when she was ordered to sail from the Yokosuka Naval Arsenal to Kure Naval Base to complete fitting out, and to transfer a load of 50 Yokosuka MXY-7 Onka rocket-propelled kamikaze flying bombs. Hastily dispatched, she had an inexperienced crew and serious design and construction flaws, lacked adequate pumps and fire control systems, and did not carry a single aircraft. She was sunk en route 10 days after commissioning on the 29th of November 1944 by 4 torpedoes from the US Navy submarine Archfish. Over 1,000 sailors and civilians were rescued and 1,435 were lost, including her captain. She remains the largest warship ever sunk by a submarine. And now onto a tank, and I'm going to pick one from Great Britain, as obviously I'm British. And I'm going for the British TOG 2. In World War II, the British dabbled in super tanks, and fairly early on in the war, the TOG 1 and 2 were both 80-ton tanks designed to cross the same kind of cratered and muddy fields of Northern Europe that made mobility all but impossible on the Western Front of the First World War. The TOG 2, of which only a single prototype was ever constructed, was comprised of the turret of a British Challenger tank sitting atop a much larger chassis. Prototyped in 1941, it was the largest tank ever produced in the UK. A few feet shorter than the American T-28, the TOG 2 carried a 76mm 17-pounder main gun and could reach speeds up to 8.5 miles an hour. Far too large, heavy and expensive for frontline use. The TOG 2 program was eventually discontinued. The sole model is currently on display at the Tank Museum, Bovington in England. Now onto aircraft, and if it's going to be a Behemoth, it's got to be a bomber. I think the Boeing B-29 Superfortress from the USA will be the ideal choice. The B-29 was a definitive heavy bomber of World War II. It originated with a USAAF specification for a heavy bomber to replace the B-17. The prototype XB-29 first flew on the 21st of September 1942, and the bomber entered service in December 1943. On the 15th of June 1944, the B-29 first bombed Japan from bases in China. From that point on, Japanese cities and industries were increasingly targeted, primarily by the B-29s. Stationed on Guam and the Mariana Islands, the B-29 was not used in the ETO as the B-17 and the B-24 were deemed sufficient to finish a job by the time the B-29's induction. The B-29 was a mid-winged cantilever monoplane with a crew of 10 to 14 men. It was powered by 4 2,200 HP twin turbocharged Wright R3350-23 air-cooled radial engines, and its fuselage was pressurised, and this saved its crews from extreme discomfort of high altitude operation experienced by the B-17 and B-24 crews. The result was a marked increase in crew efficiency. The B-29 service ceiling in excess of 35,000 feet caused great problems for the Japanese interceptor fighters, as did its defence armament of 4 centerline remotely controlled power-operated turrets, 2 above and 2 below the fuselage. Each turret was filled with two 50 caliber heavy machine guns. The remotely controlled tail gun positioned deployed one 20mm cannon and two 50 caliber machine guns. These guns were aimed from a total of 5 sighting positions that allowed fire from all guns that would bear to be concentrated on a single target. The result was devastating, and the B-29 losses to Japan fighters were light. The B-29 ended the Second World War by dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But its fighting career was not over. The B-29 was again pressed into action during the Korean War, where it smashed industrial targets in North Korea. By the early 1950s, however, the enemy's daylight interceptor fighters were the MiG-15 jets, and the B-29 losses quickly became prohibitive. After a couple of weeks of costly daylight raids, B-29s operated against North Korea targets only at night. As we all know, DICE and EA have a record of taking liberties when it comes to things like weapons and behemoths. They don't have to be totally used within whatever era the game is all about, but maybe it's just in production, like maybe it's one or two of these that I've just mentioned in the video. I'm actually not over sure about the introduction of behemoths in the next game. I was on the fence of if I liked them or didn't like them in Battlefield 1, but I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, press that bell icon, tick it so you get notifications of when we're uploading new videos, and this is Mr. Devlin, out.